Are you sure you're my date? Rebecca Sterling asked, letting her eyes travel from Nathan Cole's carefully pressed shirt to the faded cuffs of his navy jacket. The question was quiet, but the couple at the next table heard it. Nathan heard them stop talking too. He gave Rebecca a small, patient smile. Unless there's another Nathan waiting at table 7. Rebecca did not smile back. At 38, she had spent 12 years building sterling properties into one of Boston's fastest-growing real estate companies, and she had become accustomed to meeting men who entered restaurants in tailored suits, handed keys to valets, and spoke naturally about investments. Nathan was 40, broad-shouldered but plainly dressed, with tired blue eyes and the weathered hands of someone who worked with tools. Outside the tall windows, October rain softened the lights along Boylston Street. Inside, everything gleamed. Crystal glasses, polished silverware, white linen, and bottles of wine that cost more than Nathan's monthly electric bill. Our mutual friend described you as successful, Rebecca said. Nathan reached for his water. Did she? She did. That was generous. Rebecca tilted her head. What exactly do you do? Building systems technician. Meaning maintenance? Some maintenance. Heating, electrical systems, controls, emergency repairs. So you fix things? Usually after somebody important discovers they can't. A faint smile touched his face. Rebecca looked down at the menu instead. And you came from work? Went home first. I noticed your hands. Nathan glanced at the small calluses near his fingers. They don't come off with soap. 3 quick questions. 3 judgments. Nathan answered each without embarrassment. That seemed to irritate Rebecca more than defensiveness would have. I should probably be honest, she said. I don't usually date men outside my professional circle. Then tonight is already educational. You make jokes when you're uncomfortable? Mostly when other people are. Rebecca finally looked directly at him. Nathan's expression remained calm. No wounded pride. No attempt to impress her. Only quiet dignity. The server arrived and Nathan asked for iced tea while Rebecca ordered sparkling water. When they were alone again, Nathan's gaze moved briefly toward the empty chair beside their table. Rebecca noticed. Expecting someone? No. You've looked at that chair 3 times. Nathan paused. Just thinking. About leaving? Not yet. She folded her arms. You're unusually confident for someone who looks completely out of place here. The words landed harder than the others. Nathan's smile disappeared, but his voice stayed gentle. Being unfamiliar with a room doesn't mean you don't belong in it. Rebecca glanced toward his jacket. That sounds rehearsed. Life gives you practice. His phone vibrated inside his pocket. Nathan checked it discreetly. A message from his 9-year-old daughter, Emily, glowed across the screen. Did she come, Dad? Nathan typed back. She did. Another message appeared immediately. Is she kind? Nathan stared at those 3 words longer than he intended. Earlier that evening, Emily had stood in their small kitchen while he struggled with his tie and asked whether this woman might someday have pancakes with them on Sunday mornings. Nathan had laughed, but Emily had pointed toward the unused chair at their little dining table. Maybe it doesn't always have to be empty, she had said. Now, surrounded by expensive glass and quiet judgment, Nathan looked again at the 3rd chair beside him. Rebecca followed his eyes. Seriously, what is it about that chair? Nathan slipped the phone away. It reminds me of someone. A woman. My daughter. Rebecca's expression changed. Your daughter is what? 8? 9? And she's already involved in your dating life? Nathan's eyes settled on Rebecca. No, she's involved in my life. Rebecca leaned back, unconvinced. Nathan said nothing more. But inside his pocket, his phone vibrated again. Emily had sent one final message. I made something for her, Dad, but only give it to her if she has a kind heart. Rebecca's eyes stayed on Nathan for a moment after he slipped the phone back into his pocket. So your daughter is waiting to hear whether I pass some kind of kindness test? Nathan reached for his iced tea. Emily is 9. She believes most things can be figured out by asking one good question. And apparently that question is whether I have a kind heart. I didn't tell you what she wrote. Rebecca paused, realizing she had guessed more accurately than she intended. Fine, what does your daughter know about me? Your first name. That we were meeting tonight. That's about it. And she made me something? She likes making things. Rebecca opened her menu again. That's sweet. The words sounded polite rather than sincere. Nathan noticed, but let them pass. The server returned, and Rebecca ordered the cedar plank salmon. Nathan studied the menu another few seconds before choosing the roasted chicken with vegetables. Rebecca watched him close the menu. You checked the price 3 times. Nathan looked up. Did I? $28. Sounds right. You really are budgeting this dinner. I budget everything, even dates, especially dates at restaurants where mashed potatoes have their own description. Rebecca almost laughed, then caught herself. How much did you bring? Nathan's expression changed slightly. Excuse me, you're obviously calculating something. Enough. $50. He said nothing. 60. Nathan took a slow drink. Rebecca leaned back with a faint smile. $60 for dinner in Back Bay. That's brave. 52. Actually, Rebecca stared at him. You came here with $52? For dinner. I have gas money separately. You separated your gas money? I have a daughter, a mortgage, utilities, groceries, and a car that occasionally develops expensive opinions. Nathan, this restaurant has appetizers that cost $20. That's why I didn't order one. Rebecca shook her head. This is exactly the problem. What problem? We live completely different lives. I noticed. Dinner for me is dinner. For you, apparently, it's a financial event. Nathan folded his hands calmly. I saved for it. You saved for a blind date? 4 weeks. Rebecca's eyebrows rose. 4 weeks for this? Nathan looked around the room. I was told you liked this place. That doesn't make it sensible. Maybe not. Why didn't you suggest? Somewhere you could actually afford. Because I gave tonight a budget, and I stayed inside it. That's not ambition. That's survival. Nathan's face became still. Sometimes responsible people do both. Rebecca glanced at his old jacket. You know, confidence is admirable, but there's nothing wrong with admitting when you've fallen behind. Behind whom? People your age. I didn't realize there was a scoreboard. There always is. The server placed bread between them. Nathan thanked him. Rebecca barely noticed. At 40, wouldn't you want more? She continued. A better job? Better car? Some financial freedom? Nathan looked toward the empty third chair. I want plenty of things. Then why settle? You keep using that word as though you know what I chose. Rebecca frowned. What did you choose? Nathan's phone vibrated again before he could answer. This time he glanced down and immediately straightened. The message was from his sister, Laura, who was watching Emily. Emily's worried because I got called into work. I'm bringing her downtown before my shift. We're about 15 minutes away. Nathan stared at the screen. A second message arrived, this one dictated by Emily. Tell Dad I brought the gift. And tell him I want to see the lady's eyes myself. Nathan slowly looked toward the empty third chair. Rebecca followed his gaze. Something happened? She asked. Nathan put the phone away. That chair may not be empty much longer. Rebecca's attention shifted from Nathan to the empty third chair. You're bringing your daughter into the middle of a blind date? Nathan shook his head. Laura got called into work. She's dropping Emily off, and I'm taking her home. So dinner is over. If my daughter needs me, yes. Rebecca leaned back. That must make dating difficult. Sometimes. Work too, I imagine. Sometimes. Everything stops when Emily needs something. Nathan met her eyes. Not everything. Just anything less important than Emily. Rebecca gave a short, disbelieving laugh. That's exactly what I mean. You've built your entire life around one person. She's my child. She won't be 9 forever. I know. Then what happens when she grows up? And you realize you forgot to build a future for yourself. Nathan became quiet. The restaurant's piano carried softly through the room while October rain tapped against the windows. Rebecca mistook his silence for uncertainty. I'm not trying to insult you, she continued. I'm saying you're 40 years old. You budget $52 for dinner. You drive an old car. You work a job that barely gives you breathing room. At some point, don't you ask whether you should have wanted more? Nathan looked down at his calloused hands. I did want more. What happened? Life changed. That sounds like surrender. Sometimes changing direction is the opposite. Rebecca shook her head. That's what people say when they're trying to make peace with disappointment. Nathan looked at her again. There was no anger in his face, only the same quiet dignity that had unsettled her from the beginning. Rebecca, what do you think makes a man successful? Options. She answered immediately. Financial independence. Achievement. The ability to provide more than the minimum. Anything else? Ambition. Character? Of course. Kindness? Obviously. Being there when your child wakes up scared at 2 in the morning? Rebecca paused. That's parenting. It can be success too. You really believe that? Nathan's gaze drifted toward the empty chair. My daughter sleeps peacefully now. 5 years ago, she couldn't. Something in his voice made Rebecca stop. Because her mother died? Yes. Nathan picked up his water, but did not drink. Emily was 4. For months, she'd wake up and check every room because she was afraid someone else might disappear. Rebecca's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry. Thank you. But you still needed a career. I had one. Nathan caught himself. I worked. Rebecca noticed the correction. That wasn't what you were going to say. It doesn't matter. You had a different career? Nathan smiled faintly. You've spent the evening telling me my current one isn't impressive. Why would another title change what you think I deserve? Rebecca's face tightened. That's not fair. Neither is measuring a stranger before you know what he carried to get here. Their meals arrived. Nathan thanked the server and moved his plate aside, almost untouched. Rebecca watched him check his phone again. How long? Laura says 8 minutes. And Emily really wants to meet me? She wants to see whether you have kind eyes. Rebecca looked away. Children simplify everything. Sometimes adults complicate what's simple. And what exactly did you tell her about that chair? Nathan glanced at it. She asked me this afternoon if someday there might be room at our table for somebody else. Rebecca went still. Somebody replacing her mother? Nobody replaces Rachel. His voice remained gentle. Emily understands that better than most adults. Then why the chair? Nathan's eyes softened. Because she thinks love doesn't have to remove someone to make room for someone new. Rebecca had no quick answer. Nathan's phone vibrated again. Laura had arrived downstairs. He stood and reached for his jacket. I'll get Emily and take her home. Rebecca looked toward the stairs. You not bring her up? No, what? Nathan buttoned his jacket. Because she came here hoping to meet someone kind, and I'm not sure tonight is the night I can tell her she did. Then, from the lobby below, a child's bright voice carried up the staircase. Dad, wait. I brought the gift for Rebecca. Nathan froze halfway between the table and the staircase. Emily's voice had carried farther than either of them expected, bright and unmistakably excited. Rebecca looked toward the lobby, then back at Nathan. She knows my name? She knows enough. Apparently more than I thought. Nathan reached for his wallet. I need to go. Rebecca watched him place 2 20s and a 10 beside his plate, then count $2 more from his pocket. Exactly 52. Nathan, stop. He looked up. I'll pay for dinner. No, thank you. You barely touched yours. I ordered it. This is ridiculous. The whole check is nothing to me. Nathan's hand stopped above the table. Rebecca heard her own words a second too late. I didn't mean it like that. I know. Then let me pay. No, why are you making this about pride? Nathan slowly slid the money beneath the edge of his plate. Because there's a difference between generosity and making sure someone knows they need yours. Rebecca's expression tightened. I was trying to help. I didn't ask for help. You saved 4 weeks for one dinner. And I'm proud that I kept my word. Nathan, be realistic. You and I aren't equals financially. 3 words came quickly. I know that. Then his voice softened. But financially wasn't supposed to be the only way we were equal. Rebecca stared at him. Nearby, a server quietly cleared another table. Rain whispered against the glass. Nathan buttoned his faded jacket. You asked earlier what happened to my ambition. Maybe someday you'll understand that choosing responsibility isn't the same as lacking ambition. But I don't need to prove that tonight. Rebecca folded her arms. So this is it? I think it should be. Because I'm successful? Because you keep confusing success with permission to look down on people. The words were calm. That made them impossible to dismiss. Rebecca's face warmed. You've judged me too. Maybe. Nathan nodded. But I didn't mock your clothes, your work, your car, your parenting, or the amount of money in your wallet. Rebecca had no answer. Nathan turned toward the stairs. Nathan! He stopped without turning. What am I supposed to tell Emily? Rebecca asked. He finally looked back. Nothing. She's my responsibility. You said she made me something. She did. And now I don't get it? Nathan's eyes held neither cruelty nor satisfaction. It wasn't mine to give unless she wanted you to have it. He descended the stairs. Rebecca remained beside the table for several seconds, looking at the $52 he had left behind. She had spent more than that on flowers for conference rooms. To Nathan, it represented planning, discipline, and a promise kept. She had mistaken limitation for failure because she had never needed to understand the difference. Downstairs, Nathan reached the lobby just as Emily appeared around the corner in a bright red coat, carrying a small brown paper bag decorated with blue stars. Daddy! Her entire face lit up. Nathan crouched and opened his arms. Hey, Eminencia. Emily hugged him, then pulled back immediately. Did it go good? Nathan hesitated. We'll talk at home. Laura stood behind her, checking the time. I'm sorry about this. My shift starts in 20 minutes. You're fine. How about her? Emily looked toward the staircase. Where's Rebecca? Sweetheart, is she still upstairs? Before Nathan could answer, Rebecca appeared at the top of the stairs with her coat over one arm. Emily's eyes widened. That's her. Nathan stood. Emily, we're leaving. But Emily looked down at the paper bag, then back at Rebecca. Wait. She walked toward the stairs before Nathan could stop her. Rebecca descended slowly until they stood only a few feet apart. Emily studied her face with complete seriousness. I'm Emily. Rebecca's voice came softer than it had all evening. I know. Emily held the little bag against her chest. Dad said you were really successful. Rebecca glanced at Nathan. He did. Yeah, but he said that wasn't the important part. Emily reached into the bag and touched whatever she had made. He said the important part was whether you were kind. Rebecca went completely still. Then Emily looked at her father and asked the question Nathan had hoped she would never need to ask. Dad, should I still give her the gift? Nathan looked at Emily, then at the little paper bag pressed against her red coat. That's her decision, sweetheart. Emily frowned. But you always help me decide important things. Not this one. Rebecca stood motionless near the bottom of the staircase. For perhaps the first time that evening, she seemed uncomfortable without trying to hide it behind authority. Emily, she said softly, your dad is right. You don't owe me a gift. The girl studied her. Did you do something wrong? Nathan stepped closer. We don't have to talk about this here. I'm asking her. Rebecca glanced at Nathan, but he did not answer for her. Yes, Rebecca admitted. I did. Emily's fingers tightened around the bag. What do you mean, Dad? The question was so direct that Rebecca's practiced confidence disappeared. I judged him before I knew him. Because of his old jacket, Rebecca blinked. Partly. He likes that jacket. I know that now. Because of his truck? Another pause. Yes. Emily looked disappointed. Mom picked that truck with him. Rebecca's eyes moved toward Nathan. He said nothing. Emily continued. It has a bad heater, but Dad says you don't throw away something good just because it gets old. Rebecca lowered her gaze. That sounds like something your dad would say. Emily looked into the bag. I made this because Dad said maybe you could make him smile. Nathan's expression tightened with emotion. Emily, you did. She looked up at him. You said you were ready to try being happy with somebody again. The lobby seemed suddenly too quiet. Laura checked her watch but remained near the doors, understanding that something more important than her schedule was happening. Emily pulled the gift from the bag. It was a small handmade keychain woven from blue cord, with wooden beads and a silver-colored tag. 2 words were stamped unevenly across it. Choose kindness. Rebecca stared at it. I made the letters crooked, Emily said. They're perfect. No, they're crooked. For the first time, Rebecca smiled without polish. Then crooked can be perfect. Emily considered that answer. Dad says stuff like that. I'm beginning to notice. Emily held the keychain out, then stopped halfway. If I give it to you, you have to remember what it says. Rebecca's smile faded. I will, even at your company, especially there, and with people who don't have lots of money. The sentence landed gently and completely. Rebecca looked toward Nathan. Especially with them. Emily finally placed the keychain in her hand. Rebecca closed her fingers around it as carefully as if it were something expensive. Nathan watched without interfering. This was not forgiveness. It was grace offered by a child who had not yet learned to make kindness conditional. "Thank you," Rebecca whispered. "You're welcome." Emily turned to Nathan. "Can we go now? I'm hungry." "You already ate dinner." "That was 3 hours ago." "A terrible hardship." Emily smiled and slipped her hand into his. Rebecca looked again at the keychain. "Nathan." He stopped. "I meant what I said upstairs about your life, and I was wrong to say it that way." "Rebecca, not tonight." "I know." She nodded. "I'm not asking you to forgive me tonight." Emily looked between them. "Forgive her for what?" Nathan sighed softly. "We'll talk later." Emily's expression became serious again. "Did she say you weren't successful?" Neither adult answered quickly enough. Emily understood anyway. "People say that sometimes." Rebecca stared at her. "They do." Mrs. Grayson at school asked why Dad fixes buildings when he went to college to design them. Nathan went still. "Emily." Rebecca's eyes snapped toward him. "Design them." Emily nodded innocently. "Dad's an engineer." Rebecca looked at Nathan as though the entire evening had shifted beneath her feet. "You have an engineering degree?" Nathan's voice remained calm. "Yes." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because it shouldn't have been required for you to respect me." Emily squeezed his hand. "Besides, he didn't quit because he couldn't do it." Rebecca looked down at the girl. "What do you mean?" Emily leaned against her father, unaware that her next words would change everything Rebecca thought she knew about him. "He gave up his big engineering job because after Mom died, I was scared he would leave too." Rebecca stared at Nathan, but he was looking at Emily. "Sweetheart, you were never the reason I gave anything up." Emily frowned. "Aunt Laura said the job paid a lot more." Nathan glanced toward his sister. Laura raised both hands. "That conversation happened a long time ago, and she said you would have designed heating systems for hospitals and big buildings." Rebecca's eyes moved slowly back to Nathan. "Is that true?" He exhaled. Mostly. I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree. A firm outside Boston offered me a junior systems design position about 7 months after Rachel died. What happened? The job required travel. Projects in New York, Philadelphia, sometimes farther. They estimated I'd be gone 8 to 12 nights a month. Rebecca looked at Emily. The little girl remained pressed against her father's side. And she was 4, almost 5. Nathan's voice softened. Rachel had been sick for a while before she passed. Emily had gotten used to adults leaving the room and whispering. Afterward, she started waking up at night to make sure I was still home. Emily looked down. "I don't remember all of it." "Good," Nathan said gently. "You don't need to." Rebecca's fingers tightened around the Choose Kindness keychain. "So, you declined the position." "Not immediately. I tried negotiating less travel. They couldn't promise it. You could have hired help." Nathan nodded. "People told me that." "Family." Laura offered too. "Then why not take the opportunity?" Nathan looked at Rebecca without resentment. Because Emily wasn't asking for a babysitter. She was asking whether her dad would still be there when she woke up. Rebecca had no answer. The muted conversations from the restaurant upstairs seemed far away now. Rain tapped softly against the lobby windows. Nathan continued. "I found building systems work 10 minutes from her school. Predictable hours. Health insurance. My supervisor had kids and understood when I needed to leave early. For less money. Much less. And you never went back to engineering?" Life kept moving. Rebecca shook her head slowly. "You let me sit upstairs and talk to you about ambition while you knew all of this?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because none of it should have mattered." She stared at him. "Of course it matters. Not in the way you mean." Nathan's voice stayed quiet. "If I had no degree, would mocking my job have been acceptable? If I'd never been offered anything better, would $52 have made me less deserving of respect? If my truck were old because I simply couldn't afford another one instead of because Rachel helped choose it, would that make your jokes kinder?" Rebecca's lips parted, but nothing came out. "That's why I didn't defend myself with credentials," Nathan said. "I didn't want your respect, because you discovered I could have been someone you considered successful. Emily squeezed his hand. You are successful. Nathan smiled down at her. I'm doing okay. You make my lunch every morning. A demanding executive responsibility. And you learn braids. Poorly. And you came to every school thing. Except the Tuesday one when the boiler broke. Nathan laughed softly. You're keeping records? Emily nodded. Yes. Rebecca watched them, and something inside her carefully constructed measure of success began to collapse. Nathan had not lacked ambition. He had reordered it. He had chosen presence over prestige, security for his daughter over status for himself, and then carried the consequences without demanding applause. Do you regret it? Rebecca asked. Nathan's answer came immediately. No, Emily looked up. Not even the money. Money would have made some things easier. But Nathan touched her red coat near the shoulder. You learned to sleep through the night again. Rebecca lowered her eyes. Earlier, when Nathan had said that was success, she had nearly dismissed him. Now, she understood the cost behind the sentence. Emily studied Rebecca for several seconds. You look sad. I'm thinking about something I got very wrong. About Dad? Yes. Emily nodded as though that answer mattered. Daddy says being wrong isn't the worst thing. Rebecca managed a faint smile. What's worse? Being too proud to change. Nathan looked at his daughter. I'm starting to think you secretly write down everything I say. Emily smiled. Then she turned back to Rebecca, her expression suddenly serious. Can I ask you something? Of course. Emily pointed toward the keychain in Rebecca's hand. Dad says respect means treating people like they matter before you know what they can do for you. Rebecca swallowed. He's right. Emily's next question came without accusation, which made it impossible to escape. Then before you knew Dad was an engineer, did you treat him like he mattered? Rebecca looked at Emily, and for the first time that evening, there was nowhere for her confidence to hide. No, she said quietly. Emily blinked. No, I didn't treat your dad like he mattered before I knew those things about him. Nathan's expression remained calm, but he did not interrupt. Rebecca looked down at the handmade keychain resting in her palm. Choose kindness. The crooked letters suddenly seemed more honest than every leadership slogan framed inside her corporate headquarters. Why? Emily asked. Rebecca took a slow breath. Because I saw his old jacket. I heard what he did for work. I found out he had saved money for dinner. And I decided those things told me how important he was. Emily frowned. But they don't. No, they don't. Did Dad say something mean to you? No. Did he embarrass you? No. Did he brag? Rebecca almost smiled. Definitely not. Emily looked genuinely puzzled. Then I don't understand. Neither did Rebecca anymore. She had spent years believing her instincts about people were one reason she had succeeded. She could evaluate a resume in 30 seconds, a proposal in 5 minutes, a potential partner over lunch. Efficiency had become certainty, and certainty had slowly become judgment. I think I got too used to deciding what people were worth by what they had accomplished, Rebecca admitted. Nathan finally spoke. That works better with investments than people. I know that now. Knowing tonight is easy. His voice was gentle. Remembering tomorrow is harder. Rebecca nodded. You're right. Laura glanced at the clock above the lobby desk. I hate to interrupt, but I really do need to get to work. Nathan nodded. Go. I've got Emily. Laura hugged Emily, gave Nathan a quick wave, and hurried through the glass doors. Emily remained beside her father. Rebecca could have used the interruption to leave. Instead, she stepped closer. Nathan, I owe you an apology. You don't owe me anything. That's not true. Rebecca, please. He fell silent. I mocked your work. I mocked what you could afford. I treated your responsibilities like evidence that you lacked ambition. And now I realize the worst part wasn't that I misunderstood your past. She swallowed. It was that I thought I needed an impressive past before giving you respect. Nathan watched her carefully. That's closer. Closer to what? Understanding why I walked away. Rebecca nodded. Emily looked between them. So are you still mad at her, Dad? I wasn't mad. You got quiet. Nathan sighed. Apparently my daughter has developed an emotional surveillance program. Emily ignored him. He gets quiet when something hurts. Rebecca's eyes moved to. Nathan, I noticed. Too late, Emily said. There was no cruelty in her voice, only simple observation. Rebecca accepted it. Yes, too late for tonight. Emily tilted her head. But maybe not forever. Nathan looked down at her. Second chances belong to the person giving them, Em. I know. Then don't give mine away. Emily smiled slightly. I'm not. I'm giving her mine. Rebecca's eyes softened. Why? Emily pointed to the keychain. Because I already gave you the gift, and I want to believe you'll use it. Rebecca closed her fingers around it. I will, even when nobody is watching. The question stopped her again. Especially then. Emily nodded, apparently satisfied. Then she looked toward the staircase. Dad, did you eat? Some. That means no. It means some. Can we get pancakes? Nathan checked his watch. On a school night, pancakes don't know what day it is. Rebecca laughed before she could stop herself. Nathan shook his head, but a reluctant smile appeared. There's a diner 5 minutes from here. Emily brightened. Then Rebecca spoke carefully. Nathan, I'm not asking you to forgive me. But if there's ever another table, another cup of coffee, anything, I'd like the chance to meet you without deciding who you are first. Nathan studied her. And if I'm never richer than I am tonight, then that would be something I need to learn not to measure. Emily looked from Rebecca to her father and smiled. Maybe she should come for pancakes. Emily, it's just pancakes. Nathan looked at Rebecca, then at the keychain in her hand. One meal doesn't fix anything. I know, and this isn't another date. Understood. He hesitated. Emily waited silently between them. Finally, Nathan reached for his coat. There's one condition. Rebecca nodded. Name it. Nathan glanced at Emily. She gets the third chair. Nathan glanced at Emily, then at Rebecca. She gets the third chair. Rebecca nodded. I think she earned it. Emily grinned. I also get pancakes. You negotiated one condition into two, Nathan said. That's leadership, Rebecca replied. Nathan gave her a cautious smile. Don't encourage her. 5 minutes later, they stepped into Harbor. Diner, a narrow neighborhood place glowing beneath an old red sign. The air smelled like coffee, butter, and maple syrup. A waitress recognized Nathan immediately. Evening, Nate. Usual booth. If it's open. Rebecca noticed the difference instantly. Nobody cared about her title. Nobody inspected Nathan's jacket. Nobody knew she ran a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Here, Nathan belonged without needing to prove it. They slid into a booth near the window. Emily took the middle seat on Nathan's side, then changed her mind. No, I'm supposed to get the third chair. She moved across from him and patted the seat beside her for Rebecca. Rebecca sat down. Officially assigned? Officially. Nathan opened his menu. 1 pancake. 2. 1. 1.5. Rebecca watched them negotiate with absolute seriousness. I'm beginning to understand your management structure. I have no authority, Nathan said. He has some, Emily corrected. Bedtime and vegetables. The waitress brought coffee for the adults and warm milk for Emily. Rebecca wrapped both hands around the plain ceramic mug. At Bellamy's, she had spent the evening examining Nathan. Here, she began listening. Emily talked about school, her science project, and how Nathan still could not make 2 braids the same size. Nathan defended himself poorly. Rebecca laughed more in 20 minutes than she had all week. Then Emily became quiet. Rebecca, yes. Can I ask another question? Nathan sighed. That sentence has become dangerous. Emily ignored him. If Dad never becomes an engineer again, would you still think he's important? Rebecca looked at Nathan. He did not rescue her from the question. Yes. Even if he keeps fixing buildings? Yes. Even with the old truck? Rebecca smiled. Even with the terrible heater? Emily nodded. Why? Rebecca looked down at the Choose Kindness keychain, which she had attached to the zipper of her handbag before leaving Bellamy's. Because your dad's job was never the problem. His truck wasn't the problem. $52 wasn't the problem. Then what was? The way I looked at those things. Nathan's expression softened. Rebecca continued. I thought success gave me the right to measure people. Your dad reminded me that respect has to come before the measuring. I reminded you too, Emily said. You definitely did. Nathan smiled into his coffee. Their pancakes arrived, filling the table with the smell of butter and warm syrup. When the check came, Rebecca reached for it instinctively, then stopped herself. Separate checks? She asked Nathan. That works. I can pay for my own pancakes, Emily announced. Nathan raised an eyebrow. With what? I have $4. Your pancake costs $7. Emily considered this setback. Can I borrow $3? Rebecca laughed. That's technically debt financing. Nathan pointed at her. No CO lessons after 9 p.m. They paid, and outside the diner the rain had stopped. Boston's wet streets reflected the amber glow of passing cars. Emily walked between them, holding Nathan's hand. After several steps, she reached for Rebecca's too. Rebecca looked down in surprise. Emily said nothing. Neither did Nathan. At the curb, Rebecca stopped. I'm in my apology. I know, Nathan said. And I know pancakes don't erase tonight. They don't. Could coffee someday be different? Nathan looked at his daughter, then back at Rebecca. Maybe. It was not forgiveness. It was not romance. It was something smaller and more difficult. Permission to try. Emily squeezed both their hands. See? The third chair wasn't supposed to stay empty forever. Nathan's eyes softened. Rebecca looked down at the little girl who had changed the entire meaning of the evening, then at the man she had nearly dismissed because his life did not look expensive enough. And for the first time, Rebecca understood that the second chance she wanted could not be purchased, arranged, or commanded. She would have to become worthy of it. 3 months later, Rebecca Sterling stood outside Harbor Diner on a cold Saturday morning, holding 2 cups of coffee and wondering when exactly her life had begun to change. There had been no dramatic declaration after that rainy night. Nathan had not suddenly forgiven her, and Rebecca had learned not to ask him to. Instead, there had been coffee the following Saturday, then another breakfast 2 weeks later. A walk along the Charles River followed. Emily came sometimes, and sometimes she stayed with Laura, but the rule never changed. Rebecca entered their lives slowly, without using money to open doors that trust had not unlocked. You're early, Nathan said as he approached in his old navy jacket. Rebecca handed him a coffee. For minutes. For you. That's practically a vacation. I'm improving. Emily appeared behind him, carrying a school project covered in construction paper. She still checks her email during pancakes. Once, Rebecca protested. 3 times, Emily corrected. Nathan smiled. Independent audit. Rebecca laughed and opened the diner door for them. Inside, the waitress waved toward their usual booth. 3 seats waited. Emily immediately claimed the third chair. That simple ritual had become something sacred without any of them saying so. Over the months, Rebecca had discovered things about Nathan no resume could have shown her. He remembered how every waitress took her coffee. He repaired an elderly neighbor's furnace without charging labor. He attended every parent-teacher conference. When Rebecca once suggested that his engineering degree could help him find higher-paying work, she stopped herself halfway through the sentence and apologized. Nathan surprised her. I've actually been thinking about it. Because of me? No. His answer was immediate, and Rebecca was grateful for it. Because Emily is older now. She's doing well. Maybe a dream can wait without dying. 6 months later, Nathan enrolled in evening courses to update his engineering credentials. Rebecca offered no connections, no recommendation, no shortcut. She simply brought coffee when he studied late and respected the boundaries he had worked so hard to protect. A year after their first dinner, Nathan accepted a local engineering position designing energy-efficient building systems. The salary was better, but the detail he mentioned first was different. No overnight travel, he told Emily. So you'll still make breakfast? She asked. Every morning. Then take it. Rebecca laughed until tears filled her eyes. Yet the greatest change had happened somewhere else. At Sterling Properties, Rebecca removed a habit she had never recognized as cruelty. She stopped asking where applicants went to school before asking what they had overcome. She learned the names of the evening cleaning staff. She listened longer. On her office keys hung a faded blue cord with crooked metal letters. Choose kindness. 2 years after the night at Bellamy's, Rebecca returned there with Nathan and Emily. Nathan wore a new jacket now, though he still drove the old truck. Rebecca had stopped asking when he would replace it. Rachel had helped choose that truck, and some things carried value no price guide could measure. They were shown to a table near the window. The host began removing the third chair. "Please leave it," Rebecca said. Emily smiled. "She finally gets it." Nathan pulled the chair out for his daughter. "I think she got it a while ago." During dessert, Emily looked at Rebecca's keychain. "You still have it." "Every day." "Did it work?" Rebecca glanced at Nathan. "Eventually." "What did it teach you?" Rebecca considered the question. That respect, given only after someone impresses you, isn't really respect. Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. Emily placed hers over theirs. Around them, Bellamy's continued humming with conversation, silverware, and soft piano music. Nobody else knew that this was the same room where Rebecca had once measured a good man by $52, an old jacket, and a job title. Nobody needed to know. The lesson had never belonged to the room. It belonged to the woman who changed, the man who refused to surrender his dignity, and the little girl who saw what both adults had missed. Nathan had never needed wealth to become worthy of Rebecca. Rebecca had needed grace to become worthy of the third chair. And sometimes the person who changes everything is not the richest, strongest, or most powerful person in the room. Sometimes it is a 9-year-old girl asking one simple question. Did you treat him like he mattered?